A perfect TikTok marriage hid a violent reality that would quickly turn lethal. This is the Ana Abulaban story. Hi, Amy.
Hi, Meghan. I love that last name. Sounds like it would be fun to say.
It took me some time, just so you know, to get it right. So hopefully I did. So today's case I discovered when talk of the TikTok ban was receiving a ton of press. And I'm sure you remember this. It's been all over, right?
Mm-hmm.
But don't lie to your face like, uh-oh, are we going to get into this? No, it's not exactly what you think. I decided just to look at possible crimes related to TikTok use or content creators, just to see what was going on. And while I found a few, this one really made more of an impact on me, probably because I found a documentary, which happens. This one I had not heard of, but it was produced by 50 Cent. So I was like, well, let's check it out. For people who are interested, and for you if you want to watch after, it's called TikTok Star Murders, and it can be viewed on Peacock. Despite the fact that I don't always love the names of these shows or the titles, I thought this documentary was really well done. There's a lot of footage of the couple involved here, just a lot of insight that you can get. And I thought it was respectfully done with a lot of her family and friends. So I highly recommend it. This case reminds me of a few we've talked about in other episodes as well, and some we've seen in the media. So at the end of the story today, I'd like to discuss the impact of social media on crime, or at least the possible role it plays in certain crimes.
And you cover that in your crime and media class?
I do. Yes. My crime and media class, it's interesting because it historically focused on, TV and films and other things. But now with the shift towards social media and the fact that everyone's capturing crimes on social media, or there's, more of a role here, I do cover it now in that class.
Do you cover how police use it in their investigations? I find that so interesting.
Well, I just started covering it because it's also media and crime's a new class for me. So I'm kind of juggling the ideas for that particular lecture. So I think that's a great idea. Yeah, thank you.
Good.
Super helpful. You're always super helpful. Okay. Before we get to TikTok, let's meet the couple at the center of our story, Ali and Ana. Ali Abulaban was a military officer stationed at the Okinawa Air Force Base when he met Ana in 2014. Originally from Staten Island, Ali had joined the military as a way to get out of his home. According to Ali, he and his father were often at odds. Though his family was Muslim, Ali wasn't really that interested in the religion or the traditional lifestyle that accompanied it, From a young age, Ali was interested in the entertainment industry, and he was very good at performing, which in some ways upset his father. I don't think his father viewed that as, traditional hard work. So after high school, Ali's father forced him to attend community college. But he really wasn't interested in higher education, so he decided to enlist in the military for an intel job instead. However, there were no positions available in intel for that time, so after he'd finished basic training, he ended up as a military police officer in Okinawa, and that was in 2014. Which is where, at the age of 21, Ali was instantly smitten by a young, vivacious woman named Ana. Though Ana had been born in the Philippines, she was raised in Okinawa as her father was stationed there as a naval contractor. Ana had a very tight-knit group of friends who described her as a bright, shining light. They also said that Ana was a bit of a nerd when she was younger, but in a good way. I love that nerd is kind of being used in a more positive way now. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, when we were younger, it was not cool to be a nerd.
No, it wasn't. I kind of consider myself one, but I like that it now has a positive connotation. Yeah. But she liked, video games and computers, stuff like that. So I think that's where the description came from. But Ana was the kind of person who made people gravitate towards her because of her sweet disposition. So it's no surprise that Ali was attracted to Ana. They spoke for about 2 months before their first date. But once they went out, they became exclusive pretty quickly. But while they were both smitten, there were definitely red flags early on, with one incident in particular being reported on. Now, Amy, the details of this incident depend on the source. They vary. But all reports agree that while drinking too heavily, Ali assaulted Ana and her friend while having an argument. The nature of the assault is unclear, and Ali's version is that it was some type of accident where he fell. He didn't really mean to grab Ana. I believe what actually happened was that he did grab Ana, and a friend of hers, a male friend, intervened.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever the story is, these claims must have been substantiated in some way because Ali was discharged from the service. And it wasn't exactly a dishonorable discharge. It was more of a voluntary discharge. So rather than face a court-martial, he agreed to discharge from the service.
So there were no criminal charges filed?
No.
Okay.
After his discharge, Ali moved back to live with his family in Bristow, Virginia. But he quickly found work in IT as he was computer and tech savvy. Despite the assault as well, Ana and Ali remained in a relationship.
How long were these two together at this point?
Yeah, at this point, it wasn't that long. A matter of, I'm going to say, months.
And is there an age difference between these two?
They were around the same age.
Okay.
Yeah, not a if there is, it's not a significant one.
Okay.
Now, while they were still together, Ana and her family moved back to the Philippines. And not long after, Ana discovered that she was pregnant with Ali's child. While she wasn't sure what to do, and she wasn't sure how he would feel about it, Ali was pretty excited about the pregnancy. He wanted a family, and he wanted to be with Ana. So he committed to supporting Ana and began the process of bringing her to the United States on a marriage visa. That's not a quick process, though. It's actually a long one. So while they waited for the visa, Ali would go to the Philippines to visit Ana during her pregnancy. And 9 months later, they welcomed their daughter, Amira. Ali was there for the birth of his daughter.
I love that name.
I love that name too. Yeah. It took 9 more months for the marriage visa, but once it was obtained, Ali moved Ana and Amira to the U.S., where they quickly got married. At first, they lived with Ali's family, but he worked for a good IT company and made decent money. So after a while, they were able to move into their own home. But while he was good at his IT job, his real passion was in content creation on social media. Remember I talked about how he liked performing? So much so that he was becoming a TikTok star.
What does that entail exactly? Like, is it a certain amount of followers that makes one a star?
Yeah, that's what I learned. Like if you get verified on Instagram, it's like you become legit. And then on TikTok, if you get a certain number of downloads, certain number of followers, and if you get others who are, known as stars as well to mention you or to recommend you, it's like you've arrived. You've made it.
It's funny because I know our young listeners and viewers are probably like rolling their eyes. Like that's the most obvious question.
I know. Okay, well, let me tell you about him. His social media name was Jinn Kid. Jinn, not like the drink. Jinn meaning an invisible spirit or entity. And he became known for making short stories of impressions. So he imitated characters from Skyrim. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but it's a medieval role-playing game. And he also would imitate characters from more mainstream media like John Wick and Nicolas Cage. Mm-hmm. But his most famous impression was that of Tony Montana. Do you know who Tony Montana is? I know you're not going to.
A sports person? No, I don't.
Or the central character in the movie Scarface.
Okay.
Now, I actually love those movies. I don't know if you recall, but in our office, I have a poster of Scarface up. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Uh-huh. You're like, how could I forget that? It's huge and it's on our wall.
And it's always in my background on Zoom.
I can take it down. I'm sorry. Okay.
It's okay.
Okay. So he did a really, I would say, arguably a very good impression of Tony Montana. He was incredibly versatile, and I would argue he was pretty talented with impressions. Mm-hmm. And Ali got the one break that every creator on TikTok wants. One of his Skyrim videos that basically this video catapulted him to fame with over 17 million views. Which elevated him to over 2 million followers on TikTok.
Wow. Yeah, so that's a star. Yeah, for sure.
Yes, and you also asked, that meant that he began getting advertisers. And as we know, this is a way to monetize. Mm-hmm. But while Ali was thriving, Ana was beginning to feel isolated. While she often helped him with his content creation and even appeared in some of the videos, She was really far from her own family, and though she liked Ali's family, she never really saw anyone else. She raised Amira, she helped Ali with his career, but she didn't have a network of her own. So when her friends invited her to visit San Diego in 2020 and Ali agreed, she was ecstatic. Like, she was just thrilled. She fell in love with San Diego because who wouldn't, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I love San Diego as well. James is from there, and when we go, it's just like I would never probably leave. So when Ana took this trip, when she got home after she returned, she told Ali that she loved San Diego and she really wanted to move there. And to her surprise, he supported this decision pretty quickly. As a TikTok star, though, being in California meant more access to opportunities because he was interested in TikTok, but he was also interested in entertainment in general. So they moved to downtown San Diego, a building known as the Spire, and they lived on the 35th floor overlooking the beach in downtown San Diego. How nice.
Sounds perfect.
Right? I know. Yeah. Life seemed good for the couple, and of course on social media, it looked perfect. Ali posted a dance video of the two of them that said, "When your relationship is drama-free." And it looked like they're dancing and having fun, and they look really happy. But behind the scenes, it wasn't drama-free. In fact, it was becoming dysfunctional and even dangerous. It seemed like the more notoriety Ali got, the more his ego exploded. He already had an ego, I could say. You could see that. But he loved the fame. And he started believing that he was more famous than he actually was, I think. And as Ana and Ali entered the party scene in California, Ali became highly addicted to cocaine, going from recreational user to basically carrying a bag of cocaine with him on a daily basis everywhere he went. I was very surprised to see this, but he even used cocaine on some of his live streams. Now, he tried to sync it like with his character because Tony Montana in Scarface was a heavy cocaine user, so I think he kind of tried to make it, align with the character, but it was almost like he was becoming the character, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
He took on the persona of Jin Kid and the characters he portrayed. He referred to himself as a sexy god, an internet sensation. But while his star was rising, Ana was also getting established in San Diego. However, with her group of friends now surrounding her, Ali was no longer the center of attention, which really annoyed him. Between his ego and his drug addiction, Ali was unraveling by the spring of 2021, and his temper went from a private display to a public one. In fact, Ana's friends were becoming very concerned for her safety at this point.
Meghan, can you give an example of what he did, or are we going to get into that?
Yeah, I will, but let me give you one example that I saw in the documentary. Her friends said that they had come back maybe from the beach, or they were out somewhere, and Ali was mad because he didn't know where she was, and they got in an argument in the bedroom, and he threw something at Ana, and she could hear that. So, there was definitely violence that was occurring. But I will give you other examples as we go along. It also wasn't just Ana's friends who had a firsthand glimpse of Ali's temper, though, because he began recording his arguments with Ana. While Ali probably thought they made Ana look bad, I would argue it was just the opposite. And I think his ego just couldn't stop.
Was he doing anything with these videos, or he just
some
was
of
he
them
sharing
he
them with
posted.
anyone?
Some of them he was posting, yeah. In these videos too, he's constantly accusing Ana of cheating on him, arguing that she paints him as the bad guy, but it's really her. He bullies her in these videos, degrades her for not having sex with him, and tells her that she doesn't please him, says you must be having sex with someone else, you're too good looking not to be. When it's really clear that she obviously does not want to be intimate with him because he's on cocaine, he's violent. Why would she want to? It seems obvious to everyone else. He also becomes increasingly paranoid and angry in some of these recordings, which, you can see in the documentary. You can also see some of this stuff on YouTube as well. And it seemed like the less Ana catered to Ali and his demands, the angrier and more abusive he became. He recorded himself yelling at her, threatening to separate her from Amira and have her deported if she divorced him. Ana called the police for some of these incidents, and she even appealed to Ali's mother, asking her to intervene. But I will say Ollie's mother seemed frustrated with both of them, saying that if Ana really wanted it to stop, she needed to leave and not return. So she needed to leave for good because they had a history of Ana leaving and then coming back. And so Ollie's mother, it's hard to say. Could she have done more? I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't have enough information, but it does seem that she was frustrated with both of them. Later on, she would come to Ollie's defense, and we can argue how we feel about that later. But Ana felt like she couldn't leave. And by July of 2021, the situation had escalated. Ana called the police to report that Ollie had threatened suicide by brandishing his firearm, which he had a permit for, with their daughter in the home.
Oh.
Though the police came several times, Ana didn't press charges ultimately. She was torn, as we often see with victims of abuse. She wanted Ollie to stop, but she also did not want to jail her abuser. Ana was afraid, and she was, as Ollie's own cousin said in the film, like a hostage. Ollie began to take his violence towards Ana to his TikTok platform. I mean, first he was degrading her, but then he started calling her a bitch, a whore, and a barrage of other derogatory words on TikTok, saying that she was ruining his life and showing the world her face while Ana clearly is trying to stay off camera.
It almost seems like he was delusional. That he thinks like these videos were going to paint him in a good light. I don't see how he could have thought that.
Yes, or he had so many followers, he thought his followers were going to support him, meaning like she was clearly ruining his life.
Were people commenting, and did it seem like people were supporting her?
Yeah, no, it seemed like people were supporting him.
Oh.
I didn't see, I didn't see the full extent of the comments, but I did see comments like, you'll get through it, brother, don't worry, things like that. And who knows what people, I don't know what else people said. I don't know how many people supported her or did not. Ollie also recorded himself accusing Ana of cheating on him with a mutual friend named Rayburn Barron, whom they had met when they first moved to San Diego. They were all in the same friend group, but Ray had commented early on about Ana's beauty. Ana was a very beautiful woman, which Ollie did not like at all. So he considered him a threat right from the start. And the violence escalated from verbal to physical abuse after one particular argument. It was so bad that Ana called Ollie's cousin, who reported that one side of Ana's face was bruised and swollen. And there were pictures of this that you can see. And Ana was ready to admit that this wasn't the first time that Ollie's abuse was physical, just the first time that she had really shown it to other people. Ana was trying to leave. She sent the pictures of her abuse to Ollie, threatening that she would either go to his family, the police, or perhaps even post this evidence of abuse to his TikTok page or, to his fans. She was finally taking some measure of control for herself.
This is a scary time for somebody who's in an abusive relationship.
It's a very
start
scary
to take control.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out. Around the same time, Ana was contacted by a young woman in her building who told her that she'd had an affair with Ollie.
Oh, and he's accusing her.
Exactly. There's a video of that, her saying, "Isn't that interesting? The whole time he's accusing me, he was the one having the affair." The woman lived in their building, as I said, and she wanted to know, she wanted Ana to know in particular. I don't think she was calling to say like, ha ha. I think she was calling because she was concerned for Ana's safety. She said that Ollie had said some pretty bad things about Ana. And I think she wanted to give her a heads up, which I commend her for. And that was the last straw for Ana. On October 6, 2021, Ana and Amira moved out after Ollie refused to leave. Ana posted a video on TikTok about enduring 7 years of an abusive relationship and ending it after he cheated on her in their home.
Did she have a lot of followers like him?
She had a lot, not like he did, but she did have a number of followers as well. And I'm sure I don't know how you do all this, but tagged his followers and whatnot. So I'm sure it gained a lot of attention. Unfortunately, it infuriated Ollie, who hit back by leaving awful messages stating that, by the way, he cheated on her all the time because she deprived him of sex and it's what she deserved and it's what he deserved. After his public defamation of Ana, he kept calling and threatening her to take down the video. So Ana eventually took down the video. But she had shown that she was not going to let Ollie control her anymore. So after a few weeks of Ana living outside of the home and her kind of calling her own shots now. Ali seemed to realize that she wasn't coming back, so he offered to go to a hotel so that Ana and his daughter could move back into their apartment.
Oh, that's surprising.
It's very surprising. Ana was relieved to take him up on the offer because she didn't really have a great plan for where she was going to live, but she didn't suspect that he might have any ulterior motives. Her friends, however, worried that it was a ruse to get her back to the apartment.
I have a feeling it was.
Yes, unfortunately, her friends would be right. On October 21st, after moving back into her own home, Ana took Amira to school in the morning, but came back to quite a shock. Her apartment had been vandalized, and she knew immediately that Ali had been the one to do it. She called her friend Julia to ask if Julia would pick Amira up from school, because Ana said she needed time to fix the apartment, change the locks, and get a restraining order, which she planned to do that day. Now, she also called her friend Rayburn and asked him to come over and help her clean up this mess. Apparently, it was pretty bad. Ana and Rayburn had begun a romantic relationship once Ana freed herself from Ali. What Ana didn't know was that Ali had installed an app on Amira's iPad to listen to everything going on in the apartment.
Oh, geez.
Yes. Sorry, he had a copy, just so you know, he could enter. So Ali heard Rayburn and Ana's voice in the apartment the same day he vandalized it, which sent him into a fury. That afternoon, just before 3 p.m., Ali went to the apartment building, this time with his gun, and recorded his entrance on his phone.
To post it?
I'm not sure why he recorded it, but he's recording this like he's in the elevator saying, "Hey, man," to some other guy, and then he's recording himself enter the apartment. And what you hear is immediately after he enters the apartment, you can hear him shoot. Ana and Rayburn's voices can be briefly heard shouting something. You really can't make out what it is. Immediately after shooting, Ali flees the apartment, but quickly returns, screaming, "Ana, Ana," and then exits again.
Were both of them shot or just Ana?
Yeah, both of them were shot, and I'm going to get to that. A neighbor quickly contacted 911 saying that there were gunshots and identified the shooter as Ali. They knew him. The police responded immediately, and when they entered the home, they found both Ray and Ana on the couch, deceased. Ray had been shot 3 times, while Ana was shot once in the head. Meanwhile, Ali had beaten Ana's friend Julia to Amira's school. And as Julia pulled up, she saw Ali taking Amira away. And she panicked, and she didn't know what was going on. While she tried to follow them, she couldn't keep up, and she was calling Ana, but Ana wasn't answering, and Julia had no idea that Ali had killed Ana. Luckily, though, with the APB out on Ali and his vehicle, he was soon arrested without incident on the highway. He had a gun and ammunition in his vehicle, but Amira was not harmed in any way, thankfully, physically at that point. Ali was taken into custody and arrested for double homicide. But would he stand trial for the crimes? The answer is yes.
Yep. I was going to say someone like him is not going to take a plea.
Of course not.
Is he claiming that he didn't do it? There's so much evidence.
Okay, no, that's not the claim.
Self-defense.
Let's start. Well, no, not exactly, but
okay.
Let's start. He does not deny it. In January of 2022, he had the preliminary hearing, and at that time, he had several outbursts during the court proceedings. So in response to hearing testimony from an officer about Ana and Rayburn's relationship, Ali called Ana a bitch and yelled that he didn't want any of this, that his life was destroyed, screaming, "You think I wanted this?" He couldn't contain himself at this hearing, and I think this was just a preview of the real Ana Abulaban for the world to see. And many were anxious to see what the trial would bring. The trial began in May of 2024. And as you asked, there was no argument about who killed Ana and Ray, but rather why. So the prosecutor argued that this was premeditated double homicide. The audio and video from Ali's phone was introduced to support the growing pattern of abuse and threats to Ana. The prosecutor alleged that a violent man brought a gun to the apartment to kill his wife and her lover, And this man had also, by the way, previously searched on his computer chopped bodies and where to purchase trash cans, which does not look good. The video of Ali shooting and then fleeing the apartment had been caught on a neighbor's Ring footage, so this was also admitted. He called his mother when he left the apartment. So when he fled the apartment and went into the hallway, he called his mother, immediately confessing that he had just killed Ana. So this was also played.
I was going to say she testified, I'm assuming.
She did testify, yes. And I think there was some suggestion. She was there to support her son. She testified in his defense. I'll get to that about his childhood and things that he had experienced that might have led to his decision making. So the defense here was arguing that it wasn't premeditated, rather it was a crime of passion in which Ali was, get this, provoked by Ana, and therefore it was manslaughter.
Blaming the victim.
They really
awful.
did. I mean, it seems to me they could have argued crime of passion without provocation, without laying the blame at her feet.
They could have said that he walked in and his wife was having an affair.
But it doesn't have to be that she provoked him. They suggested that Ana pushed Ali to a breaking point by taunting him with their new relationship, partnered with his devolving mental state and drug use.
That doesn't make it okay.
No, of course not. Of course not. Surprisingly, Ali took the stand in his own defense. Or maybe not surprisingly, given...
I was going to say his ego. Yeah.
Yeah, his ego, I think. He admitted that he had abused Ana physically on multiple occasions. And he admitted to killing Rayburn and Ana, but said that it was seeing them together and experiencing the betrayal by both that pushed him to murder. He said essentially that he'd snapped, that he'd only meant to confront them, but not to kill them.
I'm assuming the woman that he was having an affair with also testified.
I'm not sure if she did. It was a brief affair. He was candid about his domestic violence, his drug use, and I think he was also candid about the affairs. So I don't know if they necessarily had her testify, perhaps. But even though he was candid, he was combative on the stands. His ego was on full display, which, didn't do his testimony any favors. And, he argued with the prosecutor at times when she would ask a question. I'm not going to let you paint me this way. The combativeness does not work. Jurors would not like that. But his state of mind was critical in this case, so perhaps the defense didn't think they could get around putting him on the stand. To me, I think he just wanted to be on that stand. I think he had to be. I think his ego meant that he had to.
I also think if that's going to be your defense, you kind of have to tell your side of the story.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's perhaps that as well. Well, after 2 days of deliberating, the jury came back with a verdict. Any guesses here?
Guilty of first-degree murder.
Guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder. Ana's friends were relieved, but Ali looked surprised. I think he really believed he wouldn't be found guilty of the premeditated crimes. Ali was sentenced on September 6, 2024, and his sentencing was also not without incident. Ali argued with Ana's sister while she was giving her victim impact statement, and emotions were clearly heated on both sides, but that's her opportunity to let her emotions be seen to the court and be heard. He made his own statement apologizing to Ana's family and saying the following to his daughter: "Amira, please don't blame yourself. None of this is your fault." As if there was some reason why it would have been this innocent child's blame to carry. I was so perplexed by this.
And she's still quite young at this point.
At that, yes, she was 9 or 10 years. She would have been 9 or 10 years old. It didn't matter. In the end, Ana Abulaban was sentenced to life in prison, with the judge remarking that, quote, "The bottom line here is that he will die in prison. He will never be a free man. He will take his last breath there." As cheering erupted from the courtroom, Ali clapped back, mocking those who applauded his sentence, remaining arrogant and indignant to the very end. Okay. That's the story here. And this is pretty recent. As I said, this just happened in 2024, so just last year. So obviously too soon to see what appeals will bring in this case. But now that we know the story, Amy, I want to talk about the theory behind what happened here, what went wrong with Ali. And I'm going to give you some information about his background. But let's start with the obvious. I mean, I think he was clearly abusive, manipulative, and I would say a classic narcissist. Mm-hmm. Agreed?
Very much, especially when you look at his behavior in the courtroom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. He didn't believe that Ana had a right to complain about anything he did to her. He wasn't about to let her go to anyone. He seemed to view her as his rightful property. That's the impression that I got. He owned her. She didn't have the right to refuse him or to rebel against him. So where does this behavior come from is what we need to explain here. I think this is the perfect storm criminologically with Ali at the center. Let me just give you a little background here about Ali and his father, which might also help shed a little bit more light. Ali testified that his father had a very bad temper and was very controlling of him and his mother as well. At times abusive, which his mother substantiated, though let me say that his mother was also trying to help her son. So it's hard to know how much of it is true. I did get the distinct impression, if he was not outright abusive, that he had a temper and was controlling.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Ali learned early on that, he learned early on that a temper and control and possibly physical violence was permissible in solving problems in the home. Ali also began with power and control over Ana. He started that way, right? And he believed he was entitled to it. And I think once he began to lose that power, he increased his level of violence, which is not atypical, by the way, of predatory power grabs to regain control, right? This is something very common that we discuss found in rapists. Their crimes are predatory and they're an attempt to gain control. I think there's more with Ali, though. So I think that he developed this escapist persona, but his characters embodied violence. So his characters were extremely violent characters, especially Tony Montana. And as his characters became more violent on TikTok, I think Ali became more violent in the real world. It's like he became immersed in this online persona. And as he increased his cocaine usage, that played a role. Certainly not it's not causation in his ultimate crime, but I think it did play a role. But a big question also, Amy, here is, did TikTok play a role in the crime? And if so, what role did TikTok play? Do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, I would imagine they have actually this is a pretty recent case, but certain content would get flagged, I would assume. Mm-hmm. Right? So did any of his content get flagged?
I don't know. No, I mean, I don't think so. A lot of it, I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't know if TikTok has any burden there where they should be.
I don't know that I mean TikTok is to blame. I think I'm trying more to explain his behavior. Without TikTok,
gotcha. Okay.
Would Ali have ultimately murdered Ana? I guess
I see. I mean, his behavior was being reinforced. He was still getting followers. He was still getting likes. People were engaging with him. So I guess they were reinforcing his belief that what he was doing was okay when he was being abusive.
So I think of this TikTok as kind of like a facilitator, like cocaine, for Ali's violence. So without it, he still would have been a very violent man. And quite possibly he would have killed Ana anyway. But with it, the violence escalated quicker. I think we got to a lethal ending much faster.
Yes.
Are there any other things that you can think of when we're trying to explain his behavior criminologically? Because I'm seeing definitely just power, control, learning theory, coupled with personality, the narcissistic personality disorder.
I definitely think power control is one of the main drivers here, but strain theory.
Yeah.
Once he felt the strain of Ana, the removal of Ana, she was finally taking control. Again, it goes back to control, but I think it was the stress he felt from that situation as well. So maybe he was spiraling a little bit.
I do think he spiraled. There's no doubt about that. However, I don't think he spiraled to the point of not understanding his actions. I don't think
I agree.
And I don't believe it was a crime of passion in that he didn't premeditate this.
No, there's no evidence that suggests this was a crime of passion.
No, I don't think so either. So in the end, I guess, facilitators are something that I talk about in my serial murder class, because they are ways that, or items or habits or things that facilitate the actions. they help make it easier, but they
Mhm.
aren't the cause, right? So that's
Yeah.
why we say drugs, alcohol, gambling, things of that nature, maybe.
Mhm.
In the end here, I think that TikTok, masked the reality of a violent man who was putting on a fake show of this happy marriage while a
Mhm.
battered woman was suffering.
But Megan, he also eventually started showing some of her suffering,
He
right?
did. He did
Okay.
eventually, yes.
Mhm.
I mean, I think that this case, though, serves as a reminder that social media may depict perfection for some time, but it can
Mhm.
be hiding a whole host of dark and problematic behaviors behind the scenes.
Mhm.
And in Anna's case, I think what was hidden from Ollie's millions of followers for quite some time was that the man who made them laugh so much and was so entertaining was ultimately an abuser and a killer in the
Mhm.
end. And I don't think that people saw that coming.
Yeah.
And remember, I said it reminded you of certain cases. Does this case remind you of others that we've discussed or covered?
I was trying to rack my brain because I knew you mentioned it, but
It made me think of Courtney Clenny.
oh, interesting.
Uh,
Yeah, I could see that because of the domestic violence.
And because they had this facade and
Yeah.
persona that they were
Yep.
this happy couple. I also thought of the Gabby
Yeah.
Petito case.
Yeah. We didn't cover Gabby
We
though,
did
right?
not cover Gabby, but I thought of that as
Mhm.
well. But Courtney Clenny was who came to mind
Yeah,
here.
that is a actually pretty close parallel.
Yeah, I think
Except
so.
the abuser and the victim are kind of swapped gender-wise.
That's correct, yes.
Mhm.
But again, these are reminders that you just can't believe everything that you see initially. So I think in the
Yeah.
end, Ollie is where he should be. It's really a shame and a sad story, though.
Mhm.
Okay, well, before we go today, I just wanted to say thank you also to the people who wrote in about the case we recently covered in Delphi, Indiana. I got a lot of feedback
Mhm.
via Instagram, but especially via emails. Because I just started school, my workload has been really heavy, but I am working to respond to all of you. Just so you know, I appreciate the feedback, all of the information. It was great as well to discuss this with our patrons at our
Mhm.
last meetup. I thought they had great insights, and I love hearing it directly. So I wanted to thank everyone for that. And if you're interested in joining us for one of these meetups or any of our other perks, you might consider supporting us on Patreon. We get a lot of good feedback on the things that we offer there. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And we'll catch you next time on Women in Crime. Women in Crime is written and hosted by Meghan Sachs and Amy Shlosberg. Our producer is James Varga. Script editing is by Abagail Belcastro. Audio editing is by Siler Burr and Jose Alfonso. And music is by Desert Media. If you enjoy the show, please remember to follow and leave a review. You can also support the show through Patreon, where you can get access to additional ad-free content such as exclusive full-length episodes, lectures, a book club, and virtual happy hours with Meghan and Amy. For more information, visit patreon.com/womenandcrime. Sources for today's episode include the documentary Tik Tok Star Murders, CBS 8 San Diego, Fox 5 San Diego, NBC 7 San Diego, and KTVQ.com.